Okay. I'm an official astrology geek. So for the past few months, I've been diving deep into astrology, and I was never really into astrology up until last year of August 2025, where I have went to Salem, Massachusetts, and I've gotten a reading. And this lady, she was breaking down my natal chart, and I was, pretty surprised of how accurate it was. And ever since then, astrology was on my noggin, but I didn't really dive into it up until about 4 months ago, where I made my first video talking about my Lilith and my 12th house of Aries. And ever since then, I've been diving deep. I'm pretty amazed of how accurate my natal chart is, and also others around me that I have been studying from. And I'm just like, okay, this universe is such a mystery, and I just can't help myself but to dive deep into learning all of this. So in today's video, I am going to be talking about Neptune entering into Aries and why it's important and how it's going to affect us. And on top of that, it's such a coincidence that Neptune is entering into Aries. And the last time Neptune was in Aries was about over 160 years ago. So not everybody lives to feel the energy of Neptune in Aries. And it's such a coincidence how it's happening in my lifetime because of my Lilith in the 12th house of Aries. And the 12th house is ruled by Neptune. And like I said, my first video, I was speaking about my Lilith in my 12th house of Aries. Um, and ever since then, I've been receiving certain messages about that. So for Neptune to enter into Aries, and it's been about over 160 years, the timing is just, it's like, it's something I just can't really explain. So what happens when Neptune enters into Aries? So when Neptune enters into a sign, it sits there for about 13 or 14 years. So the last time Neptune was in Aries was about over 160 years ago, which was around 1861 to 1875. So that's why I said not everybody gets to live to feel the energy of Neptune entering a sign. Most of us alive right now has felt the feeling of Neptune in Aquarius, Capricorn, and Pisces. Pisces is the sign that Neptune is exiting from. Pisces and Neptune was around 2011 up until now. However, right now we're just getting a snippet of Neptune in Aries because Neptune is going to retrograde in October. It's going to retrograde back into Pisces, and then it would jump back into Aries of January 26, 2026. And it will remain in this energy of Aries all the way to 2039. If you're not really into astrology like that, I know this can sound really confusing, but just bear with me here. So, when this happens, right now we're just getting a snippet. So right now Neptune is in Aries, but it will retrograde back into Pisces in October, and it won't officially sit in Aries until January of 2026, and it will stay there up until 2039. So it's going to be a whole era of this energy. And when this happens, expect spirituality meeting the fiery warrior. So Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. And when this enters into Aries, is going to be a merging of spiritual and this fiery warrior. So there's going to be a lot of like sacred rage, uh, a lot of like mystiques being more like fiery. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and predict any wars because I don't want to manifest that. Um, it's going to be a lot of like the dream meeting reality because of the spiritualness of the Pisces merging with that Aries fire. It's going to be a lot of truth being lived and not just imagined. And just to give a example of this, because Aries is also the sign of individuality and all that. So what was happening back in like 1861 to like 1875, there was the Civil War going on. A lot of other global major events was going on around that time. The Emancipation Proclamation Emancipation Proclamation was going on at the time as well. And a lot of things on individuality and also spirituality. Around that time, seances was becoming more popular, so the science and the spiritual, not just imagined, also lived. So that was going around during that time. And now it's going to happen again, but like, in a modern feel of it. And I don't know. I don't know what to say about this because right now we're getting out of Pisces, Neptune and Pisces. And I truly feel like this ever has like it's done a number on people because a lot of people can't really face that spirituality energy. When it comes to spirituality, it's not for everybody. It's really not, because it's a it's a journey of self, and it's a journey of self, and not everybody can handle that. That's why, like, I'm not a religious person, but I can understand why religion needs to exist, because people need to be in a group. Because when you are on a journey of self, and not that many people can face their self, not that many people um can understand the rights from wrong and your own morals and the rules of what you make up, and people just spiral. There was a lot of escapism during this time, and it's like it there was beauty that came out of this, because spirituality has become more popular between like 2011 up until now. There are so many people that I know with tarot cards. um I was really quiet about me being just spiritual. I wasn't really opened up about this until like maybe around, I guess, this year, last year, where I felt more comfortable. But before that, it was more, you know, quiet. Like there was people into this stuff, but it wasn't like a big thing until around this era. Now a lot of people are really getting into astrology and so on and so forth, which, was the beauty of this era. But at the same time, there was a lot of escapism, identity crisis. um, but at the same time, there was like social activism, which was, a good and bad thing at the same time. Um, so so to enter into Aries, which is going to be more of a fiery energy after coming out of this, I don't think a lot of people has fully healed so far on this journey. So to merge this now with the fiery, which is going to be more out there, more rage. I don't know. It's going to be a interesting era to observe. So, what's going to make this really interesting to observe, especially since I've been learning about all of this, is because it's everything's happening on a subconscious level. Not everybody is aware of how all of this energy works unless you're studying astrology. So now that I'm becoming more aware of this energy, I'm like, oh, okay. Because even from learning from people's natal charts, not just my own, I'm like, oh, I can see why you act like such and such. And people around me, they don't understand what the heck I be saying, but they're just like, okay, I'll go with it. So all of this is happening on a subconscious level. Not everybody knows about Neptune entering into Aries and this energy and how it's going to affect them. Just like how it's like the phases of the moon, how the full moon, they say people go crazy, you know? So it works like that. But, different levels with the other planets, which a lot of people are not really aware of. So, if you are studying astrology and you're aware about your energy field and how everything works, then you're like ahead of the curve. So, for me, what I've gotten out of this era of Neptune and Pisces, and what I feel like a lot of people should at least understand, is that spirituality is not just light, it's a lot of shadow work. And I have been noticing people talking about shadow work. My boyfriend, he's all into that stuff. Um, and he's like really, really deep into like transformations and all that. And it's crazy because he's a Scorpio with a Scorpio rising and Aries moon. So it just, and his whole chart, it just makes so much sense. But yes, so spirituality is not just light, it's a lot of darkness. It's a lot of shadow work that needs to be put into place on this journey. And going into Aries, if you haven't worked on yourself during this spiritual phase, I don't know, that Aries energy is gonna be fire. So whew, I just gotta sit back and see how this all plays out. So if you want to be ahead of the curve, if you're learning about astrology and all that, what you need to look out for when it comes to your energy field. What you need to do, if you haven't done it already, you need to look up your natal chart. There's so many websites you can go to. A lot of people use astro.com, but I use astro charts because it's easier for me to like look at and read and break down. So look at your natal chart. What you're going to look out for is the big three: your sun, moon, and rising. But not only that, in the natal chart, you have 12 houses, and each house is a different area of your life. And with this Neptune and Aries, you're going to, for my advice is to look at where your Aries falls, and whether if it falls in the first house, the sixth house, whatever. Look at which house is Aries, and also look at the placements of your Mars, which house your Mars is in, and also what sign your Mars is in, whether if your Mars is in like Taurus or like Libra or whatever. And then also too, if you have your Lilith in Aries. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. So those are the things to look out for: your Aries in a specific house, your Mars placement in a specific house. If you have Lilith in Aries, anything that's Aries, that's what you got to look into, because that's the house that your Neptune is going to sit at for the next 13, 14 years. Just to give a few examples, I'm going to speak on just a couple of houses and also give an example of somebody in my life that I know that uses their natal chart subconsciously. It's like they're working with this energy and they didn't even know it this whole time. And I'm going to give an example of myself because I go by that philosophy: know thyself before you teach others. So learning about my natal chart, it helped me out so much. And this is why I can understand other people even more when I look into their charts. So if you have Mars in the first house, I don't, but if you have Mars in the first house, and I'm going to use some of these cards as references. If you are new into astrology, Astrology, that's the name of the deck that I've purchased. It breaks down aspects, planets, zodiac signs, all of that very well and easy to digest. And some of these cards that I have right here, for instance, the first house, which is all about thyself. It's childhood goals, physical appearance, desires, individuality, all that. If you have Mars in this placement, I notice people with Mars in the first house, you guys are the type that is just like mess around and find out. I know a couple of people with Mars in the first house where they're the type that if you mess with them, they will find out where you live. Okay? You guys are like firecrackers. So when this Neptune enters into Aries, I feel like you guys are going to feel it like a lot, especially since this is like it's like the front line for you guys. If you have Aries in the first house, like if you are an Aries rising, oh my gosh, because that represents the first house. Um, if you have that or the Mars placement in your first house, or both, if you have an Aries rising and Mars in your first house, I feel like you guys are gonna feel this energy really, really strong. Um, I would pay attention to this aspect of your life, and I would be careful of not being too reckless. I feel like that's gonna be hard for you guys, especially if you don't know this on like a conscious level. So yeah. Now if you have Mars in your second house, or if you have Aries in your second house, or both, this deals with like what you value and whatnot, money, materialism, all that stuff. I would pay attention to this part of my life if I was you and how this plays out. So it's like you gotta notice where you put your energy mostly towards. That's where most likely this fiery energy is located. So I would pay attention to that aspect. Or if you have like a Mars um in your third house, or like Aries in your third house, or both. Now this deals with like communication and all that, and siblings. I feel like you guys are very witty and just fiery with the mouth. Um which is not a bad thing. Everything's good and bad at the same time. I would just pay attention to how you use this like part of your life. I feel like you guys would be very, very vocal with this Neptune entering into Aries. It's like more your truth being let out. Um, so I would pay attention to that aspect. An example that I can give is my boyfriend. So my boyfriend, he has a Aries fifth house and an Aries sixth house, and he has his Mars in the 12th house. Now, with my boyfriend, he's a Scorpio with a Scorpio rising and a Aries moon, and he's all about transformation, and he's all about helping people. He's like underworld meets like that fiery depths with that Aries moon. And lately he's been gaining a lot of followers on his Instagram. He went from 118,000 followers to like 135,000 followers within this past week. And right now he's about to put out a course that's going to help people with like physical mobility and like anxiety and all that. And with this Neptune entering into Aries, I feel like these parts of his life is being activated. So when it comes to the fifth house is like very playful. It deals with pleasures and all that. He loves helping people, and he's really good with kids. And I see that more so happening with him like right now. And with the sixth house, it deals with like how you conduct yourself throughout the day, and also how you service others. And I see that being played out right now with him gaining so many followers and people reaching out to him. And it's because he's like doing the work. If you're working with your energy, it's going to flow very easily instead of working against it. With his Mars in the 12th house, it's such a hidden psychic type of house, so many layers to it. So this part, the Mars in the 12th house is like, it's a hidden warrior. So I kind of see it playing out. I kind of see it being activated, but it's such a hidden piece. So it's really interesting. Um yeah, so I would pay attention to wherever your Aries placement is in the Mars. Now, if you have Aries in the seventh house, or Mars, or both, with this Neptune entering into Aries, I feel like this placement right here, which deals with partnerships, businesses, just people that you're going to meet, is going to be on a whole new level with this fiery energy being activated here. I feel like this group is like, you don't know who you're going to meet the next day. It's like always something new, and a new type of experience when meeting people. So I would pay attention to this part of your life, especially with the whole spiritual merging into this fiery energy. So yeah, like I feel like you're the type of group that would like I said, you never know who you're gonna meet the next day. And if you use this to your benefit, you can develop like good partnerships and businesses, and like especially if you're an entrepreneur, the type of collaborations that you may have working with this energy, um especially living through that truth with that spiritualness, you know, can make that work for you. And if you have, let's say you have Aries, Mars, or both in the eighth house, which deals with like the occult and transformation, with that fire energy meeting that spiritualness. Wow, I really don't know what to expect from this group. That's going to be interesting to observe. Like I said, like pay attention to these different parts of your life. Um, Me, for an example, I have no Aries in none of my houses. Well, the 12th house. I have no fire energy in none of my houses. The only fire energy I have is that Lilith energy in Aries sitting in my 12th house of Neptune. And it's so interesting because this was the first video that I've spoken about Lilith in the 12th house, Aries, all of that. Ever since then, I've been receiving certain messages about this fiery energy. And it's so funny. Last week, no, about like 2 weeks ago, I even made a video of this synastry message that I had with coming across Beyonce's birth time, which I wasn't even like looking for it, but it was so interesting because we're kind of like born at 9:47. Hers is 9:47 p.m. Mine's is 9:47 a.m. And like the houses and all that, the placements is like a flip in a way. And seeing that and learning certain things along the way is so interesting, and such a coincidence of how Neptune is entering into Aries, which is going to activate my 12th house with the Lilith in it. And I remember when I went for a reading in Salem, the lady who gave me a reading, she told me that my natal chart is like a spooky house with a light inside that nobody knows about but me, and that's that Lilith in the 12th house. And for it to be activated, I don't know what to expect from myself with this new era. Um, all I can say is if you have Lilith in the 12th house, which is hidden, the mystique, and if it's in Aries, it's like that hidden warrior like breaking out. And yeah, I mean, I already see it with myself because I've been working on certain aspects of that and breaking out of like a certain, I don't know, area of my life, and being more open about talking about certain things, especially me talking about like the shadow and darkness. And I write a lot of like dark fiction books. So, and before I wasn't really open about that, but now I'm beginning to be more open with it. So it's definitely going to be something interesting to like work with. And since I'm someone that's coming from a awareness side of things, like this is not unconscious, this is more of a on a conscious level. it's like for me and for you as well, if you're like working on this on a conscious level, like do your best not to like sabotage this energy. Like work with it, don't work against it. Just let everything flow, because whatever's going to be is going to be regardless. So you might as well work with this energy. I forgot to mention this. So when it comes to astrology and learning about your natal chart, it's a lot of energy going into this. It's a lot of merging of different things. It's kind of like making a cocktail and all that, being a bartender, mixing all these drinks together and getting whatever you get out of mixing everything together. So when it comes to your Mars placement, you also got to look at which energy field your Mars is falling into, whether you have a Mars in Scorpio, a Mars in Virgo, Libra, whatever. So for me, I have my Mars in Aquarius, and my Mars conjuncts my Mercury. So it's like most of my that fiery energy that I do have, it's mixed with that Aquariusness. So it's a lot of high intellect and a lot dealing with the mind and stuff. And that's why I'm so good at like typing for hours. So I write books, and when I write, I can write for hours upon hours with no problem, because all of that energy is being focused towards that. That's like the one part of my life where I have a lot of energy towards. So it really depends on how everything is placed in your chart. It's really interesting when you start looking into all of this. It's really like I said, like a bartender mixing all these drinks together. It's like you never know what you're gonna get. So that's something to look into as well. So to wrap this up, what to get out of this video, if anything, I would advise to look at your natal chart. Go on astro.com or astro charts or whatever website you're going to use. Look at your natal, look at where your Aries is placed, where your Mars is placed, if you have Lilith and Aries, because Lilith is that suppressed type of energy. And if you have Lilith and Aries, that's going to be activated for 13, 14 years. So I would pay attention to all of that and focus on where this energy is going towards and how you can use it to your benefit. Because this is the type of energy that is like it can it can go either way, especially with this fire with it. That spiritual truth being speaking more into existence. It could go either way. It could go really, really good, or it could go really, really bad. But that's all I have for this video. I hope it was really helpful. Sorry if I'm all over the place, because I'm still learning as I'm going along this journey. And yeah,